The Minecraft Forever world, the world everyone wants to achieve, yet many struggle to figure out what to do to keep the world going on forever and not just 2 weeks. Minecraft is a game where you're provided with the tools to do whatever you want, with some defined goals being thrown into the mix. People easily accomplish the defined goals like getting max gear and defeating the Ender Dragon, but there's only so many of these said defined goals for you to complete, often leaving the player wondering, well, now what do I do? Well, as someone who's been playing on the same world for just about 5 years, I can confidently say there is a ton of other stuff for you to do in the game. Actually, there's technically an infinite amount of things you can do, although this can be quite problematic, as with so many choices, players can get overwhelmed and just quit altogether. If you want your Minecraft world to last forever, this is something you're going to want to avoid, so it's important you find out what you want to do in your world. As for what you can or should do, well, it's really up to you, but for those stuck at the drawing board, I have a bunch of ideas of things you really should do in your world that I'm safely going to say will make your world last way longer and just make it overall better. Before we get into these, I will clarify that some of these tips I'm gonna mention, I haven't even gotten around to doing myself, but have learned by looking back at certain aspects of my world that honestly, I wish I could go back and have done some of these things from the start differently. This doesn't mean I can't go back and fix them now, but if I did some of these things earlier, it would have really improved my world. But with that, here are 10 things you need to do in your Minecraft Forever world. Something you should really do in your Minecraft world, preferably in the earliest stages, is decide what the center point of your world or village is going to be. As to why you want to decide where the center is located is because this is the spot where you should build your most impressive and largest scale project. This does a few things. One, it makes your world feel like it has a start, and everything you build around it will now feel more like a part of something bigger rather than individual builds. Two, your world will have a much bigger awe factor, as every time you log on in the middle of your town or base, there's something unbelievable for you to look at that just brings the whole world together. Now, I'll be honest, this is one of those things I didn't think of when I originally started my world, which I very much regret, as I love what this provides for your town. But I do have a build that is an example of what a good centerpiece build could be, and that is a giant castle tower I made. While I still need to give this an interior and terraform the outside, this exemplifies a large scale build that serves well as a basis for your town. And this could be anything, it doesn't have to be a castle either. You could do a giant tree, maybe make your mega base as the center of a village, you could do a giant statue, your mansion, a coliseum, or even something just like a large town square with some form of mural in the center. It doesn't necessarily have to tower over everything else as well. You don't actually need a center point in your world or village, but I promise you, from many of the worlds I've seen, the ones I believe to be the best always have an impressive centerpiece that sets the vibe and tone of the world. It becomes iconic and is almost a symbol of that player's world. Now, the center of your town can only be the center if you expand outward, building all your different necessities and creating your town or your base around this centerpiece. When people finish their main base or their house, the first few things they tend to build are staples of any survival world. These include things like farms, a place to keep your animals, a nether portal, and some form of cave entrance. There's 2 ways you can build these. You can build them efficiently using only the blocks you need, making it simple and quickly, or you can make these more than just survival necessities and make them impressive builds on their own. To state it in simple terms, don't cut corners. Everything you make in your world should be given the proper time and care and effort to make it look nice. So instead of building something like a nether portal just for its use, decorate it with nether themed blocks to make it feel more like a portal entrance rather than just a black rectangle. Instead of building an 8x8 fence for your animals, build a nice barn. And instead of just digging a 1x2 hole into the ground to go mining, build a cave entrance with a prep room before you go down into the mines. This one makes your world feel more complete and put together, but also just provides you with plenty of content and gives you more of an incentive to build some of these things, as you know they actually serve a purpose. Speaking of incentive, hopefully if you found this video helpful or entertaining whatsoever so far, do me a favor and hit that like button as well as subscribe so you never miss out on future videos just like this one. It helps me out a lot and is completely free, so thank you. Now, expanding upon my last tip, I want to point out this should also apply to XP farms. XP farms, believe it or not, can provide your world with some of the most unique building opportunities. For example, if you're making a gunpowder farm, once the base farm is complete, don't just leave it looking all ugly and bland, cover it up with a giant creeper statue or creeper head. Another example is building a giant iron golem head around an iron farm. Build something on theme to hide the ugly parts of XP farms. This yet again gives you builds with a purpose, as it's part of something functional, and overall just makes your world look better. This is something I failed to do early on in my world and still haven't gotten around to, but going forward I really want to make an effort to make my XP farms look nice. Another thing you can do in your Minecraft Forever world to actually bring your town and villages to life is by relocating villagers into your builds. So many of us have fully fledged out towns with houses and shops that have full interiors, yet nobody lives or works in any of these houses. So why not bring villagers over to work in your shops and inhabit your village houses? This is now easier than ever as well with the addition of the happy gas, as all you need to do is put them in a boat, lead them to the happy gas, and fly them on over. If this is something you haven't done in your world, I highly recommend it. It actually makes your town feel lived in and alive rather than an empty village that feels like a ghost town. Not to mention, if you're somebody that likes building houses, you now have infinite content, as you can just keep making houses and keep getting villagers to inhabit these houses. Speaking of villages and towns, another thing you really should do in your long-term Minecraft world is get beacons for every district of your world. While sure, getting one beacon shows you killed the wither, why not go further than this and grind out a bunch of them, getting a beacon for all your different towns and major districts. I personally like having the speed boost effect everywhere in my base, and there's a notable difference now every time I enter an area in my world that doesn't have this beacon boost applied. This is also great for players who enjoy the survival aspect of the game, as you have to go out and collect wither skeleton skulls, kill multiple withers, and go mining for the materials to craft a maxed out beacon. This really just helps your world make it feel like it belongs to someone experienced at the game and provides you with a ton of content. The next idea is something you see in a lot of big Minecraft Forever worlds, and that is a giant world map. This, in my opinion, is a must for any large scale world. It's really cool to see your entire world fill up this giant map and get a different view of what your world looks like from a perspective that shows you how much space you've really used up. It's also just a process that I find to be very fun, filling up each map individually and then placing them together like one big puzzle. You can also then build a giant monument or coliseum to surround the world map, dedicating an entire building to it, almost like a form of trophy room. Currently mine is in my museum, but I do plan on making a larger map with a building of its own in the future. Taking a step away from the future and looking at the past, many of you who have been playing on the same world long term are gonna have builds from earlier on that might not feel up to par when it comes to the build's quality. When put in a comparison with some of your newer builds, they just don't hold up. Going back and updating older builds is a great way to provide yourself with more content, as you may be thinking, I already have a barn, why would I need a new one? And that's a valid point, but take a look at the barn you have now. Is it something you're really impressed with or happy with? If not, give it a fresh coat of paint. Utilize some blocks from new updates to add little details you didn't originally think of. I know I'm going to be doing this with the new shelf block on a ton of my older builds when it's released. If you're not happy with how a build looks or it simply feels outdated, you can always go touch it up with some new blocks and applying building techniques you may not have known when you first made it. On a similar note, another thing you generally need to do in your Forever world, and this is going to sound incredibly obvious, but you need to utilize blocks outside of wood and stone. Listen, they're great blocks and work really well with a ton of different builds, but things are gonna get stale if you keep using the same materials over and over again. Switching up your block palette has a few benefits. One, it gives your builds a unique aesthetic and differentiates builds from each other. Two, builds using uncommon blocks are not only more impressive, but can make the builds feel more personal to you, as let's be real, that medieval blacksmith house you made using spruce wood and cobblestone is cool, but I'm sure there's plenty of similar looking builds out there in everybody else's worlds. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but the uniqueness provided with blocks outside of wood and stone can be really cool for making something that feels uniquely yours. And lastly, you're providing yourself with more content, as harvesting materials outside of your few usual blocks is going to require you to go out of your way and find them instead of chopping down the nearest tree or using one of many automated farms. Maybe try building something with resin that has a very unique harvesting mechanic. Not a lot of people have used it in their builds. And I said it before, but I will clarify, there is nothing wrong with using wood and stone or having builds that appear similar to other people's, but if you've been playing for a long time and need to keep the game fresh, it's highly beneficial for you to switch up block types. So why don't you try using resin or terracotta or copper or blocks like this in your next few builds? And to dull this down, if you really do just like wood and stone, you can even just try using different types of wood and stone instead. Now, the next idea I want to mention that isn't necessarily needed for your world, but can definitely be a fun task, is to add a little lore, specifically by creating your own faction. How do you do this? Well, first you have to pick a color scheme and a logo, and then create banners you can place to signify the build or towns you create belong to one faction in your world. For example, if your faction's logo color is purple, you can create buildings that almost serve as government buildings or buildings where the leaders work, with purple roofs and purple detailing, as well as covering them up in your faction's banner. To take this a step further, you can customize your own appearance to match your faction as well. Apply the banner pattern to your shield, make your armor trims fitting to the faction's theme, and if you haven't already given all your important structures and towns names yet, you have to do this as well. This really adds lore lore to your world. This gives your world a bit of story, even if a simple one. It shows what towns are controlled by who, and can either make your world feel more connected or can make your world feel larger by creating multiple different factions across your world. This is something I'll admit I haven't gotten around to doing in my world yet, as most of my builds have been super close together, but it's something I definitely want to do once I move on from building my main village. Lastly, something everyone needs to do in their forever world is simply just fill in the blank spaces. This is really straightforward, but many builds have little gaps in between that feel unfitting when they're surrounded by developed areas, so all those small gaps between major builds, fill up those little areas with things like a trading market, a broken wagon, a garden with a little fountain, or a little fish pond. Terraforming is another great way to do this, and building paths connecting your builds can also help greatly as well. While the big builds are definitely the eye candy of your world and are probably the most important part, it's the little details that really bring your world together, and filling in these small gaps, one, is just something for you to do, but two, is really going to go a long way towards helping your world feel more lived in. Something I would really like to do in my own world is start creating custom trees and rocks along the paths going between my different village sectors. This overall gives my world more of a finished look and also helps take the world from a collection of separate builds to a world that feels interconnected. It goes from being a collection of houses to a village. Playing on a Minecraft Forever world can be challenging, as figuring out what to do can leave you feeling stuck, but I prompt you to try some of these tips I've mentioned, as I have found they have helped me greatly. Some of them help you figure out which aspects of your world need more attention, and some are just straight up fun, making your world feel more personal. I hope you guys are able to get some ideas from this video and apply them to your own world. But what do you guys think of these ideas? Do you plan on trying any of them? Why or why not? If you have any ideas of your own, I'd love to hear them down in the comments below. Now guys, if you did find this video enjoyable or helpful whatsoever, a like is greatly appreciated and goes a long way towards helping the channel out, as well as subscribing so you never miss out on another video just like this one. It will also help me reach my goal of 50,000 subscribers, so thank you. Anyways, that is it for today, guys. I appreciate you sticking around to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.